See who we got here. Laurie. Me too.
Hi.
How you doing?
Hello.
We'll wait a few more minutes. Hopefully, get a fourth committee member on here. Or is anybody there in person, Melissa? Is that Melissa?
Yeah, it is. No.
So, welcome everybody to our Transportation Mobility Advisory Committee meeting on December 16th. I'm going to start with the chair's statement. Due to Utah County's high level of coronavirus cases as determined by the state's COVID-19 transmission index, I have determined that conducting meetings with an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present there. Therefore, for the next 30 days, all meetings of the Transportation and Mobility Advisory Committee will be conducted via electronic means. Okay, I'll go around and do a quick introduction. So I'm Clancy Black, TMAC chair. Looks like we've got Joy McMurray, the vice chair, Mitsu Saito, TMAC member, and Laurie Archiaga, TMAC member and our planning commission representative. And then welcome to all staff joining us. Gordon, you mind taking a quick minute and introducing yourself since this is your first time?
Yeah, thanks. Gordon Haight. I've just been hired as the new city engineer for Provo, and so I'm really excited to get to know everybody on the group. I had a walking tour on Monday night that was really great. It was good to just kind of get familiar with some of the thoughts and ideas of trying to make sure we have a lot of different diversity in terms of our transportation. So anyway, I'm just excited to be here, and I'm going to be listening a lot.
Well, we're glad to have you, Gordon, and welcome to the city. We'll go ahead with item, let's see, okay, that's item 2. Yeah, let's go right to item 1 then, a presentation on BikeWalk Provo's bicycle and pedestrian counts with Clark Pixton. And sorry, real quick on time. Item 2 will be pretty brief today. Rob, how long do we need for items 3 and 4?
I can go through that very quickly, just a couple of minutes if that's all we have.
Okay. So Clark, it sounds like we've got time. How much time were you hoping to spend on this today?
We're going to be brief as well, probably 10 to 15 minutes is
okay. Yeah.
And Austin.
And there are, yeah, if that's okay, there are 2 parts to our presentation. Clark will do one, I'll do one.
Yeah, that sounds great. I wanted to get a feel for the other items first. But yeah, sounds like we've got time, so go ahead.
Awesome.
Start. Yeah, go ahead, Clark.
Okay, Austin, do you want to go first?
Yes. Sure. Yeah, I'm fine with doing that. And I'll just share my screen presentation. So Clark is going to talk about some data collection that we've done, and I want to talk about the rating that we received earlier this year in the League of American Bicyclists bicycle friendly community ratings. So let me just get this up. Okay, so each time we apply for this, we get a designation, and then we also get a list of things that we should improve. So in early this year, or actually last year, we were awarded the silver level bicycle friendly community, which is the second highest ranking in the state of Utah right now. The only city that has gold is Park City. So we're proud to get this silver award, but there's always room for improvement. And so what I want to do today is scroll through the list of recommendations that this rating agency is giving us and give an update on things that the city and BikeWalk Provo have collaborated on to address those things, and then places where there's low-hanging fruit opportunity to improve. So the first is a recommendation to increase the amount of staff time spent on improving biking and walking conditions. And over the past year and a half, we've seen a tremendous increase in staff paying attention to biking and walking and spending money and time improving that. So huge shout out to the engineering department. So I think since we applied, this has improved a lot. This is one area that we could improve. We received direction to both continue to expand and improve the bike network, but also have some sort of bicycle facility selection criteria. So the city does follow the bicycle master plan, but our current active transportation plan doesn't have selection criteria. It has a list of infrastructure types, but it doesn't say when to use a specific type. So on the screen is a national standard. This is from the National Highway Traffic Safety Association with support. So I can talk about this with engineering offline or something. And if you guys have comments or questions, feel free to stop me. So another thing that they recommended was adopting a complete streets policy. BikeWalk Provo and engineering, as well as the planning staff, are working on this policy. And Rob, if I am right, I think it's pretty close to final adoption stage. Is that right?
Actually, I believe Dave and Wayne were the ones who needed signatures on it, and they've signed it. It's actually up on the engineering webpage now.
Okay.
So I can get that over to you.
That's a great update. Cool. So yeah, next time when we reapply, we can say that we have that. Awesome. Thanks. Another thing they encourage us to do is keep installing more bike racks. Since we applied, the city and BikeWalk Provo together have installed dozens of bike racks. So we're doing a great job on that. They recommend that we keep bicycle education in schools and keep working on safe routes to school programs. Since we applied almost 2 years ago, the city and the school district have started collaborating like they never have before on the safe routes to school program. So that has improved tremendously. This is a little bit more intense of a thing, but they recommend adopting a commuter incentive program where basically people throughout the city will track their commutes, and then the city will incentivize biking or walking or transit. Park City does this, and basically people will log their trips using a piece of software that the city manages, and the city, using some county sales tax, will give out prizes or incentives for that. It can be gift cards to local businesses, trips to the rec center, things like that. That's more of an intense thing, and it does require significant staff time. So I wouldn't recommend focusing on that right now, but it's something to keep in mind. It recommends establishing a dedicated budget for implementing the bike master plan. And we've begun talking about this with some engineering staff. And I'd say that's in the works, and we should continue to discuss that. it recommends keeping track, collecting data of biking and walking and setting a goal towards that. The BikeWalk Provo does do annual counts on select routes in the city. We have yet to set targets, and maybe that's something that we could do. This is one of the low-hanging fruit items that I really want to hit home on. It recommends creating an official bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee, and that ensuring that the members of the committee reflect the diversity of ability levels and cyclists in the community. So the city does have an official transportation advisory committee. That's TMAC, of course. And there are 2 vacancies on TMAC right now. There's a District 1 spot open. There's also a citywide spot open. And BikeWalk Provo volunteers are eager and anxious to serve on the committee. We've had 2 people apply for both of those spots. So if you guys are at all involved in the selection process, I'd encourage you to let one of our volunteers in on TMAC. The TMAC code says that there has to be a representative from a community-oriented organization. As far as I know, no one who's on TMAC right now is that designated person. BikeWalk Provo would love to have a representative on TMAC, and we've got great people from each district that are willing to serve, and they're definitely qualified to do so. And so that's it for recommendations. We want to say that in 2022, we want to shoot for the gold level certificate from the bicycle friendly community. We also want to apply for the walk friendly communities. We tried to do that a couple of years ago and got rejected, but we've made significant improvements as a community thanks to the city and BikeWalk Provo volunteers. So we'll shoot for that this next year. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Austin. A few questions or thoughts. That Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, maybe you said this and I missed it, but I mean, is it or would it be appropriate for TMAC to serve as that committee, or? Yeah, okay.
I think it would be, because, it'd be a lot to start a whole nother committee. And
Right.
TMAC, from what I understand, is trying to look out for the interests of all transportation modes,
Right.
not just driving, but everything. So I think, the TMAC code says one person has to be a representative from a community-oriented group. If you had someone from BikeWalk Provo on there, I think that would be tremendously helpful for the group, and it would help the city increase its potential of getting that gold status.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense and would be really good. And I just want to say good job to you all and to everyone here and staff getting silver level. I mean, it's really, really cool. So thanks for sharing that with us and the work you guys do to make that happen.
It's absolutely a team effort.
Sure.
If others have questions, you can chime in, of course. Otherwise, I think Clark, are you covering more now?
Yeah, I'll do a short one more presentation here. Let me get my screen shared here. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in on one of the recommendations that Austin mentioned, which is to get an accurate count of the volume of bikes. And then we also do pedestrians at BikeWalk Provo. So just to update you on some of the stuff we've been doing this fall in September, we got a bunch of volunteers together and went out and did some manual counts of bicycles and pedestrians. This is for now a lot harder to do with bikes and pedestrians than it is for cars with the traffic light cameras. Rob and the engineers are doing some cool stuff where they have started to count bicyclists using those cameras, bikes and scooters, and we're excited to see more of that. For now, we're planning to continue to supplement that with kind of the manual counts for the foreseeable future. So let me just zoom through some slides here. if we can get this running. A little bit of background. So this began in 2019 by Austin, and I've picked it up. We skipped 2020, but we're counting in 2021, and we're planning to make this an ongoing effort. This is actually a national methodology designed by the National Bicycle and Pedestrian Documentation Project. The project, unfortunately, I think was one of the many casualties of the pandemic, but the methodology is really sound, and there's a lot of consensus around it. So that's kind of what we've been using to do the counts. The goal is to estimate existing and future bicycle pedestrian demand and activity by going out and counting. And so just quickly, we had 1 to 2 counters at about 13 locations for a couple hours. Mid-September, we did it twice. And you just sit there with a clipboard and count the number of people on foot or on bikes or scooters that cross an imaginary defined line that goes across both sidewalks and the road. And then we use this to try to extrapolate and get an estimate of, on these stretches of road, what's the volume look like on a yearly basis. So here's an example. We had a counter on our 200 East neighborhood bikeway just south of BYU, and the orange on the screen is just the line. So they set up a lawn chair on the lawn there and just counted for a couple hours the number of people going by. This one was exciting because I think the person who was counting on the Tuesday night that we did it, we had a group text going, and he didn't even have time to type anything in the text because he was counting, just second by second, people going by on their bikes and scooters, students coming home from school. But then we had 13 locations like this. These are briefly the locations. We are targeting locations that we kind of know are high traffic areas because those are natural targets for increased infrastructure updates in the future and good places to have good data for. So Provo River Trail, the rec center, several locations around BYU, both on the south and on the northeast, as well as Provo Central Station and Center Street. So we're trying to target many of the areas. We have not added a Cougar Boulevard stop, but we plan to in the future. So those are the locations. I am going to, let me see if I can switch over here and show you just a summary of the results that we got from this data collection. Excuse me. Okay. So, I'm on the wrong slide here. So just to give you kind of an overview, actually, let me start over here. So Center Street 75 West was one of our stops, just to give you kind of an idea of what the profiles look like. This is estimated annual traffic based on our couple of counting sessions. And this is, again, using the methodology from the national documentation people, where they're adjusting for weekend versus weekday factors and monthly volume factors and all of that. They have well calculated, and so this all rolls into the annual estimate. So on Center Street, this one kind of cross section of the thoroughfare, about 1.2 million pedestrians estimated annually go by there, and that makes sense. Center Street's a busy spot. Scooters are very small, and bicycles also small compared to pedestrians on Center Street. I'll show you another example of a profile. This is the 200 East Bikeway. About half the volume of pedestrians, but a lot more bicycles. So Center Street, we only had about 29,000 estimated. Because of the facilities and the nature of the 200 East Bikeway as a connector that's been specifically designed for bikes, we get a lot more bikes there. But roughly, bikes are overall around 10% of what the pedestrian volume is, and right now the e-scooters is around 10% of what the bike volume is, all told. Let me show some more big picture. So this is what I showed you before was for specific locations. Now I'm going to show you all the locations for each mode. And if you notice pedestrian volume, so this is the Center Street, kind of the biggest value for number of pedestrians. Other hotspots include, mostly these next three are right around BYU. Actually, the next 4 or 5. And kind of a typical spot out of the 12 or 13 we looked at has 600,000, well, I guess 400,000 to 800,000 pedestrians using that road per year. Bike volume, again, is less, so it ranges from about 20,000 up to 150,000. Really interesting, the bike volume leaders here were up northeast of campus in kind of the northeast area, possibly because of Heritage Hall's up there and because of the married student housing is our best guess. But it was really interesting to see kind of where the bike hotspots were that we counted. And then e-scooters, you see Provo Central Station here in the top 2, which I think makes sense and is showing that the scooters are helping provide some last mile service from the in Boston, we call it the T-stop, from the station there. So yeah, that's just some overview data. Last piece of data I want to show for now is just kind of the percent change. So this is the 2019 data that Austin led up the effort to collect. Here's 2021, lots of numbers on the screen, but you can look at this last column here. Excuse me. I don't trust the 500 North number. It's kind of a small data stop, so the huge percent change, but you can see some places, particularly the river trail. So kind of leisurely or exercise-based trips are up a lot from 2019 based on our counts, as well as these stops northeast of BYU. And then in a lot of places, they're down, including, so I have a data quality question about our crosswalk count here, but the Center Street ones in particular are down a decent amount from last year. Overall, sorry, not last year, 2019. Overall, we're down about 13%. To put this in some context, and Rob probably has more extensive understanding of this than I do, but based on the traffic signal data that I pulled informally over the last couple of days, depending on the road that you're looking at, these trends are similar for cars, just because people are taking fewer trips post-pandemic than they were before. People were working from home and wanting to stay at home and that type of thing. So that's the picture. That's what we've been doing. We had a lot of fun conducting these counts, and our vision is to keep them going year over year and get a picture of the trends over time, as well as just the raw volume, so that they can go into our decision processes about road infrastructure and policies and all of that. So thanks a bunch for letting me take some time here to share with you some of the things we've been doing. I'm open if you've got any questions or anything for me.
I have a question, Clark.
Yep.
How did you tell me again? I missed it. I was looking at the chart. How did you get from your raw data numbers to those yearly estimates? Was that you followed the methodology from the national organization?
Yeah, so that's the national organization. They basically, based on their extensive traffic data, they have factors that correct for weekend versus weekday travel, every day of the week, and monthly kind of seasonal patterns.
Okay.
Basically, you take those factors and use their formula to kind of multiply it all in and come up with a yearly estimate.
Yeah. And your counters were probably counting both sides of the street, correct? They were trying to watch both.
Yeah. So it's an imaginary line, goes all the way across the street, and anything that crosses that line gets counted.
Okay.
That's again from the national documentation.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting to see the areas where the percentages had gone up along 9th East, kind of northeast side of BYU. I was trying to remember when the good bike path on the west side got put in, the wider sidewalks. It used to be a horrible sidewalk right there. And I was just wondering, do you or Austin remember when that was put in? I wonder if that was a factor, that there's a better facility there now.
I know that was put in before our 2019 count.
Okay.
So I don't think that's changed it. And I want to I want to just add that the national organization that created this methodology is the Institute of Transportation Engineers, ITE, along with Alta Planning and Design, a consultant group.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a similar question. When you use like IT type things, all those factors actually depends on each cities or regions. So do they have some factors, for this kind of, this level of city, you use this weekly distribution, daily distribution factors and stuff? I was curious about the detail of your calculation.
Yeah, so I believe they may have a weather factor.
Okay.
But I will let me look into it. So
yeah,
I can speak a little bit about kind of the quality here. I think doing these counts is very clearly much better than nothing.
exactly.
Even if
Great
it's
work,
kind of a like a rough cut estimate for the volume, and we'll acknowledge compared to the traffic light data that you get on cars, that's always counting all data. So there is kind of a technical limit to how much we can say on it. Certainly, it's way than nothing though, and that's one thing we're excited about. Again, I mentioned there's cameras going in that are starting to count bike and scooter movements, and I'm thinking looking forward as to ways that we can augment this data and make it even more powerful, so that we can kind of zoom in on the extrapolations and say even more about the volumes in Provo. But yeah, thanks for the question.
So
I think it's important to put those things in your report.
Yeah,
this calculation was made using such and such, and
well, it's the documentation is all freely available. It's very transparent, and so when we're working on posting this on the BikeWalk Provo website, we'll have all the data and everything available for everyone to take a look at. So
one of the things that we could do to kind of refine those kind of factors for Provo specifically is putting out, we've got, not only are we adding cameras that can detect bicycles, but we have mobile cameras that we bought this last year that can then plug into a software to where you can watch it, in faster time, and so interns can do the counts, without staying there for 24 hours. They can they can do a count in a shorter amount of time, and we could put those out periodically, figure out a methodology for putting those out periodically, and kind of seeing how that those factors compare to Provo specific in those specific locations, and refine things that way.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, that's one of our. I mean, twice a year, 2 periods once a year is nothing compared to the volume you get on the traffic cameras. So that sounds really, really promising to where we could fill out our data a little more. Cool. Thanks, Rob.
Hey, Clark, on the scooters, I understand they have a GPS. Is there any way do they keep track of miles they might have gone or something like that, just to see what they might have done? That might be something to be fun just to look at.
Yeah, so the GIS data that Super Pedestrian has, I think, is quite good.
Good.
Just check in once every minute or once every few seconds is my understanding. So if you want to zoom in on the scooters, I think getting that data and taking a look is certainly the way to go. And I'm interested in that type of project. For us, since we were counting bikes and pedestrians anyways, we separated out the scooters just to get a little snapshot.
No, I think that's great.
The data is quite good.
Gordon, I can speak a little bit more on that too. I collect data, I manage the scooters here, and I get information on where they're at, heat maps, average length of trips, all that kind of information I have available.
Very cool. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Clark. Thanks, Austin. Oh,
Yeah,
Austin, actually, one more thought for you. I think it makes great sense for BikeWalk Provo of all community organizations to have someone on TMAC, a member. I hope that works out. But just as by way of comfort, it was made very clear to me when I began my term on TMAC that I was tasked with equally representing all modes of transportation. So I do consider that something that all members of TMAC need to do regardless. So hopefully that's comforting on some level to you guys as well.
Yeah, and like I said, we have so many people who would love to serve on TMAC and are ready to do so, and there are 2 spots open, so it's a great time to add someone.
We'll see how it goes.
and for your info, Austin, I'm not aware of any input committee members have on filling seats. If we do, we haven't been told that. But I was told this at the council meeting Tuesday, starting in January, we will fall under public works or engineering or whatever organization, however I best say that. So maybe with that transition, we could get some movement on filling those vacant seats. So anyway, I kind of say that for you, Gordon and Rob, just as FYIs, but appreciate you bringing it up, Austin.
We'll try to get those filled right away, and I've got to do a little more research on some of the questions you're asking, but yeah, that's what we understand.
Yeah.
Great. I know the mayor's office website has that application form, so she has the applications that our volunteers have sent in. So she'll have that if you ask her.
And I know some of the city councilors are aware of this and definitely interested in getting the seats filled as well. So I think there's plenty of support. Okay, anything else for item 1? Okay, well, Austin and Clark, thank you both for you and your group's work. We appreciate it, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for the time.
Yeah, thanks.
For item 2, Joy and I wanted to give an update. On Tuesday, we presented at the council work meeting about the Center Street prioritization work we've been doing. And I felt like it went really well. We talked through our process, all the meetings we spent rating everything. We kind of reviewed the letter in brief form, just so they knew some of the nuances of the ratings, and then answered questions. Next steps, the final outcome was that they passed a motion to have staff work on a sort of organized list of kind of scenarios or options, which was what we were recommending as well. So they're on board with the direction we're headed and next steps. So I think overall it was really positive and a really good meeting. Joy, you want to add or share?
Yeah, I agree. They were kind to hear us present about what we've been working on. But I hope it would be, I thought Dave Shipley gave some great comments about how our work could actually be helpful to the council. Robbie probably heard him say that he doesn't want dollar signs. He wants amounts attached to projects, estimates that he can actually see and make sense of. And they're ready to have us suggest some projects or proposals, maybe cluster ideas together so that they don't look at that list and it be so overwhelming to them. And we knew it was an initial list that we were offering, and I'm fine with that. So I thought that was great.
Yeah, I think a more detailed. I mean, those dollar signs were because, well, just the sheer number, trying to get a good estimate on that many all at once, as we were just trying to, kind of initially get it over to you guys to look at, was going to take too long. But I think it makes sense to me if y'all and the council are good with this approach is to have us come up with as we come up with the plan and we say here's the first steps, then those are probably the ones that we'll spend more time on putting an actual dollar sign to, because of things, if things are, no matter what the dollar sign, we as we do as y'all talked about, as you were rating all these things, some things it makes sense to implement this, see how well it does, and then we can move on if that's the next step. There's some of these that may be 8 to 10 years down the road, and we don't know exactly how they're going to look. As we implement the first ones, that'll kind of determine how the later ones look. Putting a dollar sign may not make much sense, may not mean anything by the time we were to go and implement that. So, we'll see kind of as we put together this plan, we'll see how it makes sense of how much time to spend on putting actual dollar amounts to each one of these things.
Great.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of get our top list and then focus on those. That makes a lot of sense. Mitsu and Laurie, any questions or anything from what we presented to council? Or
I don't have any. It's a huge job to put price tags on everything. So I wish everybody well on that one.
Yeah.
I got the impression from the council that they were, anxious to move forward, and they did need pricing, but they also were looking for kind of the steps forward. And I think if we can get just the ones that we want to move forward with, we can get them into the budget that we're getting ready to start on. So I think it's really critical not to do every one of them, because I agree with Rob, the prices are going to change over the next every year. And so if we can really get focused quickly and show the council a good, thoughtful, meaningful plan that would progress over the next several years, and pricing just those items out, I think that could go a long ways to help keep the momentum going well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that'd be great.
And I wasn't trying to imply let's go stick specific numbers on everything on the list. I agree. Let's make our priorities first and then look at those. And maybe it'll make sense to have a mix of some of the lesser expensive items with one expensive item, first off and move from there. Yeah, but I'm sure I'm excited to hear what staff brings back for us to look at.
One quick
Staff
comment.
is excited too to see what we bring back too. So.
One quick comment from what I said earlier. I kind of said that maybe you all in engineering or planning could affect getting these seats filled. I guess I was just thinking, and they're actually appointed by the mayor. Maybe you guys have no control over that at all, but if you know the right person to nudge, that would be great.
But who is going to recommend it? I was appointed by mayor also, right? But someone has to recommend her.
Usually the city,
Council.
council. The applications, but then I think the council looks at them or the mayor asks them. Something like that happens, I think.
So since this department has been over TMAC, the applications come to me. I screen them. I interview anyone I'm interested in asking to be on it. After the interview, if that's positive, the name gets forwarded to the mayor's office. The mayor then forwards it to the council office because these names have to have the consent of the council. And once the council gives consent, then the person is on TMAC. Gordon and Rob, we should visit about this issue because a name has been submitted to the mayor's office right now. We're waiting to hear what's happening on that. But we should talk and coordinate so that the transition of TMAC from planning to engineering is as seamless as we can make it.
That sounds great. That actually sounds like a really good process that you have in place. So I think just talking it through and kind of mirroring that would be a good process. Thanks.
Can we clarify which two seats are the ones that are open and when they are open? Does anybody know that?
I can go get my file. I thought the only seat open is Mitsu's. Mitsu's term has now expired.
Yeah, it's about time.
I wasn't aware of another one, but I have to go look at my list. So that's why there was only one name
Right.
that's submitted to the mayor's office.
Yeah, actually, you know, if you can find someone, I'll be happy to be replayed.
We'll keep you in it until that day comes.
We'll keep
Don't
you as
really
long
retire.
as possible. I know.
The only other seat I thought was the one that Stephen Mongi had, because he was here for several months and then had to step down, I guess.
Mm.
I don't know if that's that might be the other one. I don't know.
Okay.
But thanks for adding that, Bill. I appreciate it. And also welcome, Bill. I don't know that we ever said in this meeting, Bill is in Gary's position or something like that, I believe. Is that correct?
Sorry, say that again.
I was just making sure everyone knew that you were now over community development, I think, Gary's old position. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Cool. Well,
it is for Mitsu's seat. Yes.
okay. All right. I think we can jump to items 3 and 4 then. Road rehab and concrete projects, which are both Rob. So go ahead and take it away, Rob.
All right. Since we have more than 2 minutes, I'll take more than 2 minutes and y'all tell me how much detail you want to go into. But I just thought we'd go over the things that we're planning on doing this next year in the road rehab, concrete overlay, and crack seal projects. And one of the things that we always look at is what we can do as we do these overlays, if there's any changes to the striping, and specifically if we there's some opportunity to implement the active transportation plan, putting bicycle facilities on here. So let me share my screen. So some of these are, in fact, the crack seal project is out to bid right now with bid openings in an hour and 17 minutes. So, so some of these things are kind of moving forward right now. Road rehab and the concrete project will be put out soon, so that we can get kind of early in the season and try to get good prices on everything. So this is the road rehab that does the mill and overlays, our development overlays, and our which typically the development, because it's fairly new, is just coming back after a bunch of development has come in and putting a smaller mill and overlay over the top, and then our micro surfacing. And some of the micro surfacing ones you also see on the crack seal. So the crack seal contractor will come in and do all the crack seal, and then all the road rehab is done under one contractor. And so sometimes the crack seal is done pretty early in the year, as soon as it gets warm enough, and then the road rehab will come back over some of these same ones and do just a surface coat over the top of those same streets. So going into a little bit more detail, we're on the road rehab and crack seal projects. Those are determined. We use LTAP, which is an extension of Utah State, where they come in and they provide a service of going and rating pavement surfaces and roadways and giving recommendations on what needs to happen and kind of timeframes. We go do that, I think, on a 5-year, I believe, cycle, and have them come back through and kind of update things. And so those are how we determine the overall list of projects and kind of get them on the schedule. And then it is also affected by projects that we know that might be coming in soon, or if utilities within those roadways need to be replaced. We don't want to put a brand new road, do things in a silo, and engineering goes and does a brand new road that 3 years later is on water's list of projects to go and update the water line. So there's a lot of coordination. There's kind of concept, I guess, schedules put out, and then every year we got to kind of see what development projects we know about that might be coming in, what utilities may need to be replaced in there, and refine the exact year of when we go and do those. But anyway, starting from the top, we're going to do a micro surfacing, and you also see it, I think, on the crack seal here on the the upper end of Canyon Road. And then we've got some.
What is micro surfacing, by the way?
So you have the more in-depth mill and overlay where you grind down, a certain depth, and then you put in additional emulsions and lay that back over the top. Microsurfacing is just kind of a surface layer of sealing the top layer to where mostly so moisture can't get in and continue to degrade the surface. So it's the less intense. The mill and overlay is when I guess the road has gotten into a condition to where you really need to take out and redo. Microsurfacing is just going to put a layer over the top.
Is replaced, right? So, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Or at least a good chunk of it.
Okay, Rob. So do these different colors indicate different levels of severity of problems that need to be solved, or just different kinds of situations?
It's the different types of what we're doing. So if you look on here, we have what we call our residential rehab. So the pavement sections within on residential roadways are thinner. The asphalt pavement section and the underlying base is smaller than on a collector or arterial road, and so we don't mill down as much just because they don't have as much. So the residential streets, the ones in red that you see here, will mill down about 1.5 inches. As you'll see, the green ones on collector and arterial roads, those are milled down 2 inches just because the pavement section is thicker. And then our development overlay is just because we're just kind of it's a little bit more than just a resurfacing, but it's because it could be. So we'll have developments when they come in and they build a new residential neighborhood, for example. Residential development they pay into a fund where they do 3 inches of asphalt, and then we'll come in after everything's done and all the construction is done, and it's sometimes the roadway is a bit beat up. We'll come in and we'll do just a 1-inch mill and overlay, just because it doesn't need to be as intense since it's a fairly new one. But it's a few years later to where once everybody's house is built and it's done, it gives them a brand new roadway for the next several years. So those are kind of the 3 mill and overlays that we do. So just kind of going through and starting from the top, we're coming down also. I guess here on Canyon Road, there already are bike symbols on the shoulders. Most of this stretch does not have curb and gutter along it. There is some on newer development that's going in. We should be able to put in a bike lane without taking out the parking along there. The ones that don't have curb and gutter in there, they already do have a shoulder that have bike symbols on there. And so it's just what we'll probably do is we'll just increase the frequency to meet their current recommendations of how often to put those symbols, but it won't really change anything. There's already bicycle facilities along this stretch of Canyon Road. On the local streets, since they're very low traffic already, there's no specific bicycle treatment that we do there. Here on Timpview, this already has bike lanes along most of Timpview. When Timpview was done originally, it didn't do this last little section, but we can get those bicycle facilities in there without taking any parking. So we would do just the same section that we have on the rest of Timpview, which is a 2-lane road, bike lanes, and then parking on the outside. 2780 North that we're redoing here also has bike lanes that go up there, as does Iroquois Drive. So we'll just put back the bike lanes once we're done resurfacing those. This section of Canyon Road currently does not have bike lanes. We just did the section just south of University Parkway down to University Avenue, and we added bike lanes. Given this section of this road, we do the same thing that we did just south of University Parkway, where it keeps the 2 lanes each direction, just because of all the events and everything that are here at the stadium. We need to keep this the same number of lanes, but we can narrow those up a little bit to get bike lanes on the outside.
Rob, one more question. On that Timpview Drive project, Are you worried about any of that resurfacing getting ruined by all of the construction going on at Timpview High School and all the trucks coming and going?
No, not really. They're coming more straight, kind of back and forth off of Canyon Road. The reason why we're only going up to, maybe I can just move this out of the way, 3230 is so that we're not messing with, directly in front of what's going on in Timpview. So we'll wait until, and in fact, we're working with the school district to update the sidewalk and actually update the curb and gutter, put in some drainage systems on there. And then once all that stuff is done, then we'll come and we'll do the refinish the surface of Timpview in front of the high school itself.
Okay, thank you.
Here, in terms of you can see the different things we've had different homes that are been updated or repairs that have needed to be done along 800 West, and so we need to resurface that with a development type overlay. On Freedom Boulevard, it is shown as our active transportation plan from a bus standpoint. We don't have, this is just for pavement resurfacing. We don't have enough room on Freedom to add bike lanes. 300 West has been our the neighborhood bikeway that we've been adding the Cheryl symbols where appropriate. There's a section of 300 West that has separated bike lanes, but a lot of it is narrow enough with very low traffic that it's the Cheryl. So because we were not able to get in on Freedom Boulevard to put in bicycle facilities, we got the next street over and have started to turn that over into a neighborhood bikeway. Columbia Lane, it is our plan in the future that is also shown on the active transportation. We want to get bike lanes on there. The difficulty of this particular stretch of Columbia Lane is that it is right next to a bunch of restaurants and other I guess high use commercial with right angle parking that as opposed to just being able to get something in on a resurfacing project, we need to look at some point in the future as things redevelop, redoing Columbia Lane in a way to where we don't, that's not the typical anymore to have the 90-degree angle parking. But anyways, the long and short of it being there's not a good way to get bicycle facilities onto Columbia Lane at this point. So we're looking to see what we can do in the future. Moving over onto the west side, it's just the development overlays on newly done developments, I guess, that have happened just in the last few years, and everything's built out now. So we're just doing those. And then kind of on the central and south, finishing up 800 west, 400 south. Neither of those we have bike lanes that we just put in on 900 west this last year, but 800 west is not a bicycle corridor. We're going to be working with UDOT on this project and see if we can get the bike lanes in that are shown on 300 south like we did on the east project, but 400 south is not a bicycle boulevard. 500 west is. So again, when we resurface that, we'll put back the bike lanes that are there already. And then in the Provost and South Provost area, or Provost South neighborhoods, it's a lot of local streets that there's no particular bike lane on those, since they are extremely low volume. So that's what we plan on doing for the road rehab. On the concrete project, we have specific concrete funds for sidewalk replacement funds. Typically what we'll do is we'll take roughly half of that and we'll update some of the concrete works adjacent to where we're doing the road rehab projects. And then we'll take half of that and it's do a specific project with that. And the one that we're doing this year is the Provost neighborhood has almost no ADA ramps. It was built at a time that they were not required. And so what we're doing is taking corridors, like the 1350 East corridor, the 460 South corridor, the Utah Avenue corridor, and trying to complete the ADA ramps along those corridors to help with those that need those ramps.
That's great. That's great news, Rob. I've walked around that neighborhood many times, and it's rough. Even for someone on foot,
Yeah.
or on bike. So that's great.
Yeah, there's a lot of intersections where we have the planter strips, and the planter strips go all the way around the curve to where you'd have to go through somebody's landscaping to cross the road. So
yeah,
it's needed.
Cool.
So that's where we're just gonna use the money there. They're also, I guess, kind of as an FYI, we wanted to present these projects that we have put together right now as an FYI. We also have CDBG funds that we'll be using to do sidewalk repairs and ADA ramps, things of the sort in Franklin as well. So that's a community development block grant separate from the actual concrete project, but we'll be doing that as well. And then crack seal, there's just I don't know if you guys want to go through all these. Like I said, this is, there are some where crack seal is just really all that's needed. And then there's some of the more, the more major roadways where we'll come and we'll do crack seal. This is the least intensive and least expensive. If you can keep on top of things, you can get done a lot more for a substantially lower amount of money. If you can catch it and just do crack seal and prevent, moisture from getting in, especially in the time of year that we're at right now, and continue to crack the asphalt. You can get a lot more done. So a lot of these neighborhood areas, it will just be crack seal. We're catching it early enough to where it just needs a crack seal. Some of the major roadways you already saw on the road rehab, because we'll come through, like I said, probably April, do the crack seal with our crack seal contractor, and then we'll come back later in the year and resurface the entire street. But these are kind of the same. Like I said, we already went through the major streets where we'd be able to add, or we already do have bicycle lanes. So there's just a lot of areas that are local roads. So that's our plan. Welcome any questions or feedback.
So just FYI, on North Canyon Road, there's a vocal faction that doesn't want to lose their parking because of the bike lanes. That group has scheduled a meeting with the mayor.
Okay.
If we can't figure out a way to keep parking and bike lanes, then I'm pretty sure that group is going to file or I would be surprised if that group files an application to amend the transportation master plan to keep their parking and get rid of the bike lanes. So just heads up.
Okay. Like I said, on this one, I need to put together the striping plan, but this section already has the bike lanes. I don't think from Foothill Drive north, I don't think that we'd be getting rid of any parking. So that's good to know that they're already in there. My plan was to bring the plan to their neighborhood meeting, but I guess they've preempted in there and they're coming to us. But yeah, I don't anticipate that there's going to be much of any parking taken out between Foothill and the north end, but we'll have those conversations with them.
Yeah, Rob, I think that was on the south of 48 when we are looking at parking in those areas.
Yeah, south of Foothill has a lot more vehicular traffic, and so it has a different travel lane section, and that's where it has more impact. But we're not doing that section this year, so. But it's good to know that they're coming in. Like I said, we've already talked about, and we had planned on this spring trying to put together a plan for all of a more detailed plan for all of Canyon Road, and go and talk to each of the neighborhoods and get their feedback on it. But it's good to know that they're on top of it right here.
Rob, I have a question. What kind of selection process do you go through to specifically pinpoint, yeah, we'll do this part? The request comes from the community?
No, but not that we don't welcome any feedback of. There have been times where people have called in and said, "Hey,
Uh-huh.
I really need my road redone," and we've gone and taken a look at it and said, "Yeah, we agree. It wasn't on our list." But it's that the bulk of the list. I mean, really, the way that we do it is as I said, we reach out to LTAP, which is an extension of Utah State.
Right.
And they provide a service of coming in and rating pavement,
I see,
going down the streets and rating the pavement and making recommendations of what treatment program should be done. And we go through that process, and that determines what kind of a 5-year plan is. And then that 5-year plan, like I said, is tweaked depending on utility. Do the utilities need to be replaced, or do we know that development's coming in, and that'll kind of, it'll be tweaked in terms of the exact year. But it's based off of that the pavement rating that we receive from LTAP.
Oh, that's good. LTAP is working. I know LTAP, but good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all I had.
Okay. Thanks, Rob, and everyone that has helped with that. And we appreciate you keeping things in sync with the transportation master plan. That's great. Do we have, that's the end of our agenda. Are there any items TMAC members wanted to bring up to discuss today, or anything else? All right. Well, I appreciate everyone's time. Thanks for being here, and we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Have a Merry Christmas, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas. Happy holidays. Bye-bye.